Ahoy hoy fellow bookworms, my name is Caroline and I like to read books, so let's talk about them. Lately I've been seeing a lot of people on Instagram and booktube complaining that they're in a bit of a reading slump, and I'm not sure if it's just this time of year or whatever, but I decided it would be a really good time for me to share my top 5 tips for how to beat that reading slump. There's only 2 reasons I've ever ended up in a reading slump. Either I've just finished a book that was so amazing and so perfect it kind of ruins my life and I can't pick up anything else because I know that nothing will compare to that book. Or I am midway through a book that is so crappy I would rather just not read at all than continue to read it. My first tip applies to this second option. If you are reading a book that is so shit it is putting you in a reading slump, just stop reading it. If you're like me and you don't like to DNF books, then just put it down for a while. This is what I did with Front Lines by Michael Grant, and I'll admit that I haven't picked that book up again, but I'm not in a reading slump anymore, so I consider this a success. Tip number 2 is to go to your local bookstore. Go explore, check out the new releases, talk to the employees, and just enjoy being there. Granted, this is my advice for pretty much everything. Just got dumped? Go to the bookstore. Hungry? Go to the bookstore. End of the world? Go to the bookstore. But honestly, this does help because I think the excitement of buying a new book or two can really motivate you to read again and help get you out of your slump. Tip number 3 is to reread something you've previously enjoyed. Personally, I like to reread Harry Potter because I've read that series so many times now that it's really easy just to pick it up and read a few chapters. It's become familiar and easy, and I don't think it requires as much focus as reading something for the first time would, so it's just a really great way to get back into the habit of reading. Tip number 4 is to participate in a read-along or join a discussion group. There are literally so many of these groups on Instagram and Goodreads where a whole lot of people will get together and read the same book at the same time and just have a chat about it. I feel like participating in discussions is an awesome way to get out of a reading slump because you've got this whole community of people around you who are super excited about a book, and that excitement can really motivate you to read as well. Another great option is to do a buddy read with a friend. My final tip is less of a tip and is more book recommendations. I don't know about other people, but if I'm in a bit of a reading slump, I find the most helpful thing to read is something relatively easy, so I tend to reach for middle grade fiction, cute contemporaries, and comic books. There are a lot of people who don't like comic books, but I really love them. I think the mix of an interesting story and a cool art style makes them like a grown-up picture book, and it's really easy to lose yourself in one. So these are just a few of my recommendations. For comic books, I would recommend Saga by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples and The Walking Dead by Robert Kirkman. Both of these are really immersive and exciting and interesting stories that are super quick to read. For middle grade fiction, I would recommend The School for Good and Evil by Saman Chunani, The Phantom Tollbooth by Norton Juster, and Wonder by R.J. Palacio. Onto the cutesy contemporaries, I would recommend Since You've Been Gone by Morgan Matson, Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertoli, and finally, A Totally Awkward Love Story by Tom Ellen and Lucy Everson. I hope that if you ever find yourself in a bit of a reading slump, the tips in this video will help you get straight back out of it. I upload videos Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays, so be sure to like this one and subscribe to my channel and stay tuned on those days for more bookish goodness. Toodaloo!